Habiba Kahinde. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks. It's really nice to see you guys again.
So without much ado, I want to welcome Camilla Nontra.
Yay!
Oh my goodness! I should come to you every day when I need.
Correct. This is Sudan.
Wow.
Sudan. Believe it or not, Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt.
Interesting.
Begin to think in a Pan-African way, because they now see that their conditions are not just about that local space, but the condition is linked to all of the other.
Hello. Good morning, everyone from California. Good afternoon, if you live where my co-host and our guest live. Good afternoon to you. If you live on the other side of the world, good evening to you. If you live in South Africa, if you live on the continent, it's most likely evening there. Well, welcome to the Pan-Africana Show. My name is Fred Nontra. We start by thanking God. By Him we live, we move, and have our being. And I'm going to hand over to my co-host to introduce our great guests this morning.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about. As you all know, there has been a revolution of sorts going on in South Africa with some of the government's response. And we wanted to have somebody who actually has some information for us to be able to educate us on what's going on, what the people are doing, and to just continue building these bridges. You may recognize this person. This person is a TikTok celebrity. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce you all to the infamous at Indigo Coates, aka Daniela Coates. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Good to be here, definitely.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you on. So I want to first get an update on kind of what's going on in South Africa. I know you put a very powerful video up yesterday about how the media portrays what's going on versus what's actually going on with unified groups of people who are in the streets, cleaning things up and trying to rebuild their country. And it's a beautiful, beautiful video. So just give us a kind of an update. Where do things stand now?
Well, right now, I also just like to get this specific narrative out there is that when they put it out there, they make it seem like it's the entire South Africa. But many of these places weren't actually affected. It's a few cities, if not, one city in, I will say Johannesburg because it is in Gauteng, but it's specifically in Johannesburg. And a few other cities in KwaZulu-Natal. There's many people who've also communicated with me and let me know that in KwaZulu-Natal, their cities and their townships were not touched. You know what I mean? So when they put this out, it kind of looks like, oh my gosh, the entire South Africa is just burning down instead of acknowledging that it's just a few cities and few townships. That's what I'll say, because that's where people of our color, are not afraid to start at, so it's not really out there in the suburbs, in the downtown areas. It's more in the township areas. So it's not everywhere in South Africa. So when it came to cleaning up the towns and cleaning up the cities, it wasn't a major situation too. People came together who lived very close by and cleaned up the town, So right now, I've already gotten a few, links to some, there's a grocery store called Pick n Pay. It's actually kind of like a big essential grocery, business in South Africa, in the entire South Africa. And they've already started sending out essentials to this specific part of South Africa that have been affected. So already there's the, working hard of the specific companies and establishments that were destroyed. A lot of them have also confirmed that they actually have more than enough coverage from it's called SASRIA, and it's the South African insurance, SASRIA, sorry. The South African, I forgot the name right now, but that's That's the abbreviation, and it's the insurance company that all, if you're affected by, the results of looting and, uprise, that they pull through, and they are liable to pull through in a decent amount of time. And all of these establishments actually are covered by SASRIA. So they're all kicking in right now. And like I said, it's not everywhere in South Africa. So it's also people from other towns and other provinces who are coming in and kind of trying to assist. A lot of people were putting out there that where are we going to get our next meal and stuff like that. And when I was speaking to people from back home, my family, my friends, they were like, it's not that we cannot get things. It's just we need to travel a little further. You know what I mean? So that's the situation going on right now, since they are rebuilding those establishments. And then on top of that, they are bringing forth extra essential products to them. So I feel like things are going well. We did see our president, out in the streets trying to help with the sweeping and rebuilding KwaZulu-Natal. Everyone kind of feels a different way about that because he could have stopped it from happening from the beginning. But, the fact that he went out and showed face is what's necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for people who are, trying to get through, I know over here we get a very clouded view through media of what's going on. Can you explain to us a little bit about the background, like what brought this about?
So honestly speaking, I know that it's deeper than just the pandemic. It goes as far as, when we got our independence in 1994. I'd like to rather, instead of me explaining it myself, I'd like to also just send out a link out there. It's called Behind the Rainbow. As everyone knows, South Africa is a rainbow nation. That's what we call it. And there's a documentary that clearly explains the kind of deals that were done during the 1994 handover. A lot of things stayed the same. They kind of just replaced the person, I'd like to just sit out there for people to look at a documentary called Behind the Rainbow, where our actual political identities speak about the situation. But when we speak about what happened just a few days ago, I believe the pandemic played a huge role in the anger that the people had. Since, 2020, when COVID struck, our president had a very strict rule when it came to lockdowns. But the way that he did the rules was kind of put out a lockdown and, people will kind of stay put. But then once it's time, before the lockdown ends, certain things started opening up. One of the things being alcohol. He had actually put a ban on alcohol. No one was allowed to consume alcohol or go and buy alcohol, which I believe was because of it creates a party-like scenery, which would mean more people. So he was trying to make sure that those kind of establishments aren't, with a lot of people. So he started opening up those places before the lockdown ended, and people just kind of went all out. And by the time the lockdown ended, people had already gathered in many groups, and they had to go back to creating a lockdown right after that, which meant people weren't able to go back to work, which meant there was 1.4 million jobs lost since 2020, closed down and lost. We have lost 67,000 people. So it's a tough situation. Kids had to, also leave school completely. And then they opened up primary schools. So it wasn't a situation of everyone is at home, we're trying to contain the situation. It was everyone's at home and then a few people will go out, but these situations were kind of, you could have kept everyone home and left certain things closed down like alcohol so that we manage the situation before we open up things like school, before we open up things like, that kids need and stuff. There was a huge thing about let the children go to school, but how? When you don't have money to pay for the school fees, when you don't have money to pay for transportation, when you don't have money to feed the kids. There was a lump sum of money that was sent to South Africa from, I believe, China. It's called the CR17. And it was supposed to, I believe it took care of 2 vaccines, one that malfunctioned, and it took care of a monthly, I would say, like a monthly stimulus for the people. But that amount was 350 Rand per person, which is $20. And in South Africa, like a case of eggs is 100 Rand. So with 350 Rand, you bought a case of eggs, a few loaves of bread, and some milk. And you had to stretch that within a month until you get the next lot. So just things that were put in place did not allow people to survive, and many of these people didn't actually have, I will say they weren't approved for this grant that was sent out every month as well. These are people who are, jobs in the first place, since we do have a 72% unemployment rate in South Africa of people who are the ages of from 18 to 35. So in the end, helping out a few people here and there who actually obviously had jobs and sending them the money, the ones who never had the jobs were now, they didn't have anything at all. So I feel like the whole kind of putting it on Jacob Zuma created a war within the ethnicities. It was easier to put it on the fact that it was, Zulus are known to be hard-headed, stubborn, but fierce and wanting of a solution. So to put it on them was very easy. And I'm sure that you've said that you've watched the president's speech. The first speech, he actually acknowledged that this is a tribalistic, situation, which it is not. Yes, people did not approve of Jacob Zuma going to prison for not showing up, not appearing in court, but it was also because the court itself was captured. And a captured court cannot actually legally imprison anyone. The person that imprisoned him, Zondo, was someone that Jacob Zuma did not want to face as someone who was also under capture. So there's a lot of, different conversations about that. Very complex. But we're finding out slowly but surely. I still give credit to Jacob Zuma. He handed himself over. It's not like, he didn't want to go at the end of the day. He handed himself over, and his people were not happy, but the anger sparked from there, and they were like, you know what, it's time up. We're hungry, we're desperate, we're angry. We have no clue what's going on. The pandemic has been going on we're going on the 2nd year now, so it was a tough situation, but there's also mob mentality. That's what I believe. Mob mentality. There were a lot of videos that I saw of people who didn't even know why they were looting, why they were even on the street, had no clue about Zuma's situation at all. So it could not have been even about, Zuma started the war. No, they didn't even know about that. There were old people, young kids, who were just like, if people are grabbing things, I'm hungry, I need to feed my children. I didn't know where the next meal was coming. And it's so beautiful now that besides the cleaning of the streets, people are trading what they took. They're helping each other out. It's not even a situation where people are selfish, keeping things to themselves. People are trading. I take this, you take that. Things that they did not have and would not have had in the next few months, So it's a situation of the people right now. I think the people put their foot down and decided to work towards what can they do. And it was easy for us who were not part of the situation. Also us, meaning people in South Africa who were at home in their warm beds, who were privileged, had, food to eat, for us to say, I can't believe South Africans would do such a thing. Why would they destroy their country and whatnot? It's easy for you to say that, You're good, you're comfortable, but you're not living their lives, you don't get to judge what they're doing. So, yeah, that's what's been happening.
So you know why I love this perspective. Anytime that people who have been largely marginalized or pressed out of the fabric of society react, folks always want to talk about their method of reaction, right? Like they say, you're looting, you're destroying your own stuff, as if there's supposed to be like a rationality applied, when in actuality, even, this is universal. Even here, what we have is people who were tired of getting killed by police. And if we've been voting and we've been complaining and we've been marching and none of this stuff worked, how do you expect people to react? On top of that, one of the things that always makes me nervous in these situations is that I know for a fact there are operatives working in all of these movements who want to defame the movement. Right. So they always take it to another level. Like we even found that there were police in the Black Lives Matter movement here. They would come out when there was a demonstration and break stuff at Target or whatever to make it seem like Black Lives Matter was doing all of this bad stuff, when in actuality it was a police transplant. And I know that that carries over with politics as well. People who just want to be a part of the moment, use their agenda to create a narrative about who people really are and kind of disengage what we're really here to fight for. So I think that's definitely something that we've seen. And I also love the fact that in your videos, you talk about this. You talk about a lot of the similarities that the people of South Africa and Black people in America have. And the reason why we kind of understand one another, just given the history of apartheid and Jim Crow and all the things that make us kind of similar in nature. So I want to kind of get to your experiences because you've been able to see it on both continents. What would you say are some of the differences, and what would you say were some of your like initial challenges in now coming to the United States?
So when I first arrived, I'm going to speak about my experience in the United States first. When I first arrived, I was an au pair, and I was actually linked with a white family, and they were great. I really liked them, but obviously we didn't have conversations that bring out a different perspective on people, and so it was hard for me to really see that situation. But where I'm from, in South Africa, there's a thing called Ubuntu, and it's all about the people, and the people meaning the Black people. We live together. We feed each other. When we go hungry together. So when I arrived here, I wanted to be amongst my people, people who looked like me. Also, because in South Africa, we went through apartheid, there's a different perspective that I've learned being in the United States, that there are other countries from Africa who people, not only Africa, but I believe it's also the Americas, where they don't actually identify themselves as Black. They identify themselves as either, Somali or Nigerian, or the specific country that they come from. Whereas where I'm from, we fought for our Blackness, and so it's hard for us to not see that we're Black. We have been told we're Black for such a long time. So coming to the United States, that was one of the first things that I realized, was when I was speaking to people who were like me, we had the same thought process when it came to being Black, and I remember it was the first time I was driving in the United States. We drive on the other side of the road in South Africa. And here in the United States, it was kind of difficult to learn. But I had like a wristband that was a bright color that, kind of reminded me to stick to the left. kind of be on the right side of the road, but when you turn onto you turn left instead of you turning right, you know? So I kind of got confused one day, and I hit someone, a car, and the lady came out, and she came to the front of the door, and I had my au pair kids in the back seat. It wasn't a huge hit, but it was kind of like a confusion, you know, just a little bump. And she came to the side of the door, and she opened my door, started pushing me. And I said, excuse me, you know, what's going on? Hold on. I think what we need to do is I need to call and give my insurance to any police officer who's going to arrive, and I will, you know, deal with you after, because I don't understand why you would just come and attack me. And she immediately backed off and said, I'm so sorry. You know, I didn't know that you were not from here. And I realized then that it was because of the way that I spoke. The way that I spoke identified to her that this was not an African American. So had I been an African American, she would have treated me worse. Had I not said a thing, it would have gotten worse. But instead, because she heard me, she felt like, you know, hold on, you know, this person's not from here. So, and she sounds different. I sound English. A lot of people have told me that we sound English, so it sounds like the Queen's language, which we don't actually sound English, but that's what they believe. So she backed off, had that perception, and I was able to identify how it felt like to how it felt like to be Black in America. For that moment, I was able to tell that, oh, okay, I see. And then even when the police arrived, he came off he didn't know who I was. And then as soon as I spoke, things settled down. I was able to tell that these people are, you know, kind of correcting themselves because of the way that I'm speaking. And that made me angry. As much as some people will look at it as, well, you know, they kind of respect me, or, you know, when they hear that I'm not from here, I'm not going to look at that as it's privilege. I looked at that and I was disrespected because I am Black. I'm from a country where it wouldn't matter how I spoke. The fact that I was Black would have been the problem, you know? So, yeah, that was like the first sign of, oh, they do the same thing out here, you know? And I wanted to be more amongst my people after that. And just kind of learn. And a lot of things that we realized, you know, I would be with them, with my friends who were African American, and we'd be in situations where we would see that they were treating us different, you know, and I stopped talking because I realized every time I spoke that somehow people would retract from the way that they were acting just to protect themselves, because they felt like I was different. I wasn't an African American, and I stopped talking because I wanted them to identify me as a Black person, because that's still who I was, you know? And so, yeah, it played a lot of roles in my life that really made me realize it was hard being Black in South Africa and being Black in the United States, but that we both have very similar mentalities when it comes to the way that we react to the situation. Because I do believe in blood memory. Our history lives within our DNA. You know, the anger of our parents, of our ancestors, we feel it. So we understand what's going on. The other day, I was even, I asked on TikTok, you know, did people read To Kill a Mockingbird? I don't understand how we as South Africans had to read To Kill a Mockingbird. And just knowing that in the United States, people have the term the N-word for Black people, we had the term the K-word for Black people. But because we had a term, we were able to identify with the term that's used in the United States. So reading that book was very uncomfortable for us as Black children. And to have to, you know, I feel like from what I've heard from also a lot of African Americans was that they were also forced to hear the words while reading the book. And we were forced to. So the way that we were also raised even after Jim Crow, after apartheid, was it was still something that triggered us as Black people, as Black children, you know. So there's just been so many things that I've been able to identify with, and I see that South Africa being, a country that was ran by the apartheid regime, that it was very easy for us. It is very easy for us to understand African Americans for who they are because of the very similar things that we went through as Black people. Even as crucial as why we're afraid of dogs. It's easy for a South African to relate to an African American as to why we're afraid of dogs. Dogs were used to torment us. Why we're afraid of water. They used to hose pipe us. The sundown, I believe you guys call them sundown towns.
Yes.
In South Africa, we had, the light. Make sure you come back. Wow.
It's my next book.
Nice. We had that rule too growing up, that as soon as that light comes on, you're back home. And it was because of apartheid. When a certain time came, you had to be on the other side of town. You had to be in the safe zone. Otherwise you will get, you could die for being in the suburbs or being in the white areas. So there's just been so many things that I've been able to you guys lived our lives. That's how I felt. And I'm with an African American man, and a lot of things that we kind of find, hurtful or just, the oppression. I was able to realize, when people said it's not really racism outright. Yes, it is here in the United States. It's definitely outright, but there's also that systematic racism that exists in South Africa. Like, for instance, if you're Black and you have an afro and you try and go to a interview, you won't, there's not a good chance that you will get it. I got a lot of my jobs because I spoke to them over the phone first, and my first name is Daniela. So it was easy for them to just she'll be good, until I showed up. And I was able to tell that oh my goodness, this is a Black person. And the first thing I heard is, so where are you from? I heard your accent. And that's how I got most of my jobs. Whereas my partner, when he would apply for the job, it would be after the call, no call back, or after that, his name is actually different. It's Armani. So he didn't get that much when it came to his name. But when it was the call, he wouldn't get that call back. Or if they never called and he was able to go in for an interview, it was because he had locks. So, it was always there's always something, you just don't look professional. You can speak as well as you can, but if your name just doesn't sound the way we need it to sound, it's not going to work for us. Or if you look in a way where if someone comes in here, they're going to feel uncomfortable, you cannot work for us, So, yeah, I realized that being Black in South Africa was almost exactly the same as being Black in the United States. It's sad. It's just that in South Africa, being Black, you still kind of have the upper hand when it comes to the outright racism. You can speak up. The police are your color skin. So when the police arrive, they're going to be on your side. There is that thing. I cannot lie and act like, I would be treated bad by a policeman. No, I won't. Not in South Africa. It would be the other way around. But, when we talk about jobs, for instance, there's this thing that we have called the BEE, Black Empowerment Economy. This movement is supposed to kind of put Black people first. I didn't realize that there were actual questions up here.
Okay, so this is, but you can finish what you finish your point, and then we'll get to the question.
Okay. Well, that question was it's a difficult one.
Oh.
Yeah, it kind of made me lose my train of thought. But like I said, just being Black in South Africa, we've got the Black Economy Empowerment movement. And it's Black people first, coloreds, other, and then white. So when it comes to going into university, when it comes to getting a job, Black people will get accepted first. They need to have an 80% ratio. 80% of Black people.
Oh,
to white
wow.
people. But yeah, that's the movement. That's what it's about. But there are no jobs for the Black people to get. Yes, the Black person will get the job before, because I can be qualified with a white person. Well, a white person could be more qualified than me, but I'll still get the job. But there is no job for us to get in the first place because we have a 72% unemployment rate. You know, universities, there are many Black people in universities, tons, because yes, there's an 80% ratio, more Black people in universities than there is other races. And a Black person will get accepted with their lower marks than a white person, but at the end of the day, they have student loan debt for the rest of their lives. They can sit on that degree for more than 10 years before they get a job. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really benefit you as a Black person, but it's one of the things that they did just to put a Band-Aid on the wound. But yeah, so yeah, I feel like, there's, and then also when you think about it, there is only 7% white people in South Africa. So to put that into perspective, that we need an 80% ratio and then the rest other races, it makes sense. They're not really going to lose because they're already such a small number. You know what I mean? It's not a situation where it's the same amount of people, but 80% of these, within the difference, 80% of all these people would have to be Black. It still wouldn't make sense because there's still just 7% of them anyway. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
for the fact that the economy is, well, I'll start with the land. The land is owned by 72% of the white people, but that's only 8% of them. So 8% of them own 72% of the entire land of South Africa, whereas us, as the 80%, own 4% of this land. It doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay. So this is Michael, one of our probably number one follower. He says, how do you differentiate between what happened in South Africa some days ago and other xenophobic attacks in the past?
So it's not similar. That's what I would say, because a few days ago we saw all Black people come together and do what needed to be done. There were foreigners who live in South Africa who were also involved in the looting, who, like I've said, have been on the news, kind of didn't even know what was going on, but because our people are doing it, let's go ahead, So it was more unified this time. We were not looking out for who was from another country a few days ago. It really showed that at the end of the day, as Black people, we will come together and we will, do what we have to do. But when we speak about the xenophobic attacks in the past, that's a different issue. And I feel like it would be wrong to kind of compare it to what happened a few days ago, because you would take away from what happened to the foreigners in South Africa. What's happened to foreigners living in South Africa it's very sad. I believe that it's also because the lack of employment. There's so many South Africans on the street. We have a situation of gender-based violence. People are bored. People don't have anything to do. There's no job, there's no work, there's reasons to look for an issue. And what's easier than to look for it in your people? It's a curse that they kind of put on all of us as Black people to destroy people who look like us first, before we destroy the people who really made us look at each other different. So I believe I believe if things could change and they could really hand over some power to Black people, have them working, give them land, give them jobs, and not only individual people, but I mean, allow this person who has the mindset of a farmer to run this farm and employ his people, you know, get people off the street, get people doing things, there will be a decrease in xenophobic attacks. There will be a decrease in gender-based violence if people are doing things, if if they're exercising their mindsets on a daily basis, not just sitting around and, smoking drugs, because that's also a big thing. A lot of these people are high. This xenophobic thing too is South African people are looking at foreigners and thinking, how are they able to do it when we aren't? Forgetting that foreigners do come from their countries with their own money and establish things with a group of people. Foreigners have a sense of community within themselves too. When they come to South Africa, they stick together. And so when they build together. When they sacrifice together. So for South Africans who are going through the most, especially because this does happen in areas where people are poor, like the main xenophobic, I would say xenophobic areas are Hillbrow, Yeoville. These are like run down downtown areas, very run down, drug infested, prostitution, you know what I mean? So people, South African people just wandering in those areas as well are just, they're not sane. They're looking at it and kind of, I wouldn't say jealous, but how come they can do it? How are they surviving? How do they have a roof over their head when I have to go and sleep underneath a bridge? You know what I mean? So that's also, I don't believe because South Africans are xenophobic. I believe South Africans love their people, but I know that because of the way that the government is set up and because of the way it is not assisting its people, people are now looking for ways to be, to kind of put their anger towards, let's put it towards foreigners. Let's put it towards women, I mean, little girls, teenage girls, if you're a female in South Africa, we are the rape capital of the world, of the entire world. It's bad in South Africa when it comes to gender-based violence. And it's because people are sitting at home. People are sitting on the street. They have nothing to do. I don't believe that we just have a race of men who are, just vultures. I don't believe that. I believe that it's deeper than what it looks like. So I hope it can get better. I hope somehow they can kind of teach the Black people in South Africa how to fish. Yes, I understand you cannot just give them the fish, but teach them how to fish, supply these opportunities. Hopefully with the South African Special Risk Insurance Agency, hopefully they can build bigger and better businesses so that there's more jobs, so that not only did the people who lost the job come back, but more people can be, rewarded that job. And somehow I feel we will be able to stop minding the business that does not pay us, like, other foreigners living in our country, because at the end of the day, as Africa as we know it, they created these borders. There should be no reason why we feel like, these people they're not from our country. So why are they benefiting from our country? There should be no reason we see that, because had it been back in the day, we wouldn't have recognized that. There wouldn't have been a border. For instance, what's happening in Zimbabwe right now, Zimbabwe has ZANU-PF has completely closed down their borders to allowing South Africans, or because South Africa is closed, but South Africans or any other Africans to come into the country and establish themselves before the Zimbabwean people, because Zimbabwe went through what South Africa is going through, but, a little bit worse. And it really took a toll on the people. So I feel like we understand why Zimbabwe has to do what it has to do right now. Because if more foreigners kind of move over to Zimbabwe, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair on the people of Zimbabwe who are already moving over to South Africa for opportunity. Let them close it off for a while, reestablish themselves. You cannot fix the world if you have not fixed your home. You need to start at home. You need to start at even yourself. You cannot fix anyone until you've fixed yourself. And so I feel like that's what they're doing right now. And I believe South Africa should do the same. But South Africa's situation is deeper than just, just Black people. It's more of the government. The government needs to come through for its people. Let go of certain pacts that were written to keep the Black man down, to oppress the Black man. And this is why I also mentioned people who are colored in South Africa. I know it's a very harsh word to tell an African American, but it's because the term is used differently in our country. Colored people are multiracial ethnic groups of people, and they too are suffering in South Africa right now. And with them, it's a different kind because they gentrified their towns. They kind of brought in the drugs. They created this gangster-like mentality within the colors. And so besides South African Black people kind of doing their own thing, there's also the colored people who are doing their thing, which is just, it's a clash. It's a clash when it comes to the people of color. And it's just creating more of a downfall instead of coming together and really realizing that, hold on, we shouldn't be thinking like this. Just because, we are not in tune with the people in the township next door doesn't mean we need to kill them, doesn't mean we need to own this space. So yeah, it's a complicated situation.
Wow, thanks for your thorough, detailed answer. Really
Thank
appreciate you coming. Continue bringing your questions. We have Daniel Indigo Kits with us, TikTok sensation. And Michael asked another question. Then maybe to read the poem, The Telephone Conversation by Wole Soyinka. Yeah, Wole Soyinka is a good poet from the great country of Nigeria. Passed away a few years ago. A great author, a great revolutionary. I also liked his anytime he was interviewed, I really loved hearing from him. So
Different conversation.
yeah, and then so this is the link. I have the link. The link to that book. I also posted the link to your the rainbow link behind the rainbow. So everyone could go get it. And this is a link to telephone conversation. All right. So to something lighter. Let's get something a little lighter. It's been So in the 90s, much younger. I mean, I'm from Ghana, but in the 90s, I went to visit a relative down in Zimbabwe, and so I sort of get what they call it, and over there too, they go by I think similar. They also call multiracial groups coloreds. It was new to me because it's a totally different term back in Ghana. But in my experience in Zimbabwe, they have one of my favorite things about Zimbabwe is the sadza.
Oh.
Yeah, and but I mean, for you, first of all, what part of South Africa are you from, and what's the main staple? What's the staple diet in South Africa? Where are you from?
So I was born in Johannesburg, the great city of South Africa. I was born in the capital, Gauteng, Johannesburg, but I was raised in Nelspruit, Mpumalanga, which is a rural area.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents divorced, and my dad, well, they both moved to Nelspruit in Mpumalanga, but after the divorce, my mom kind of moved back to Joburg, and when we stayed with my dad, we lived in a very rural area, which I think I loved, and that's where more of the kind of living like a real Black person felt like, Joburg is city-like, very city-like, very New York vibe. So there's takeaways here and there. People love eating out. There's the whole, in South Africa, there's that Friday thing in South African families. Every Friday you get fast food. So it was always, some KFC or some fish and chips.
Nando's?
But yeah.
Nando's?
Definitely. But when I was, when I was living in Nelspruit, that's where, we ate pap, which is like grits, but finer than grits. I heard I believe it's Kenya, it's called ugali.
Ugali,
sure.
Yeah.
But it's like a porridge, but a hard kind of porridge, and we eat it with either chicken stew, beef stew.
So it's similar to satsa. Is it similar to satsa?
Yes, it is. It's similar to satsa. It is.
Okay.
And we also have it with like, in Zimbabwe, I'm sure when you did eat sadza, it was always like accompanied by spinach. Is it?
Marua leaves with
yes,
it did. Yeah, with
so we would also, when we eat pap, we would have either chicken stew and some spinach, or beef stew and some cabbage. There's also mushu, which is a samp. It tastes like refried beans out here, but more, you can taste each bean, each bean is really there. So the taste of refried beans, but each bean is there, and they'll put like a little soup of whatever meat we ate maybe the day before, that leftover soup within the mushu, just to give it that meaty flavor. But because, we had to kind of watch out on how much meat we eat, because where I'm from, you cannot eat meat every single day. You have to save, you got to stretch it. So some days you'd eat mushu and you'd eat it with the gravy of the meat you ate before, just to give that meaty flavor. But we eat that, and then there's something called dombolo, which is a steamed bread that we also eat with a stewed meat, or even sometimes fried meat and a vegetable on the side, some cabbage on the side. So, I would say that we have dombolo, mushu, pap, and and we eat the insides of a cow. So unlike chitlins, we just eat the tripe of a cow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very similar. I think we have similar things to in Ghana. We have the banku, and then also fufu. Yeah, so it's similar. It's similar like in most African countries that I know of. I mean, and then we have, of course, we have the amala in Nigeria, amala, eba, pounded yam in Nigeria. So yeah, we're very similar. We're more similar than most of us know.
Also, like when I eat, because unfortunately here in the United States, there's more Ghanaian and Nigerian food. You won't really find South African food. But when I eat from Nigerian or Ghanaian restaurants, I feel the hug on the inside. I can taste that this comes from home. I can.
Yeah.
I also think it's in the spices, in the gravy, in the stews. There's something that we all use that makes things taste very similar and kind of warms up the inside.
Yeah.
Black love. Black love. We just sprinkle it in there. So I was interested because you said that in the city they do fast food on Fridays, and in my household, Friday is like the night to go out to eat. It's always been like that. It was like that when I was growing up. I never knew what it was about, and I feel like when we have these like strange parallels that, that come together, I don't know if that's like a thing. But yeah. So let me ask you this, because I am in the American South, and we pride ourselves on being, you know, America doesn't really have a culture when it comes to food, but in the American South, we certainly do, right? So we do the fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, you know, candy yams, you know, that's what we do. Have you had an opportunity to enjoy all of the wonderful, delicious food that we have down south?
Well, I went to Florida, and I believe I made sure that I got soul food, and that was great. But I believe my partner's family is actually from Mississippi, so they kind of cook the same. So my mother-in-law, the first time she made soul food, I couldn't believe it. It was my first time eating soul food. It was my first time realizing, you know, I kind of didn't really understand why was cornbread on a meaty dish. Where I'm from in Africa, a cake-like substance does not kind of go in with meat. You know what I mean? So when I tasted that, I realized that cornbread wasn't cakey. It wasn't like a cake. It was almost like dombolo, like a bread. You know what I mean? And I guess she made it into what you would call a dressing. And my life has never been the same ever since I had that. So when I cannot find, you know, African-like foods, my man also knows how to cook up a storm, and he will make, you know, some mac and cheese, dressing, roast beef. I think roast beef is probably my favorite thing that African Americans cook. I don't know how to eat soul food without roast beef on the plate. The greens, the greens are essential. They're necessary, you know. I really love soul food. That is my favorite food. When people ask me, you know, what's your favorite food in the United States? I say soul food, because it's that hug on the inside that I need, you know. It's just about who's cooking it. I need you to really know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I've realized, like you said, it's more people who are from the South or who've been raised by people from the South who will really pull it off, you know. So yeah, I love soul food, and I've had that opportunity to have it. It's actually one of the things that I'm able to find compared to Nigerian or Ghanaian food, and definitely can't find South African. So those are my go-tos.
So this is why I say it's the Black love that's sprinkled in, because even with like, you know, the history of Southern soul food is that we, especially in the Carolinas, have a lot of direct connection to the continent, and that, you know, some of us were able to have successful revolutions, or at least not be bothered, and create islands off the coast that we could preserve our culture. And people also brought like seeds or saw things here that they reminded them of home. But when it came to kind of provisions throughout slavery, you were never given the prime stuff. The prime stuff always went to the white family. You got scraps, if anything. So what we did was we found ways to make the scraps amazing, right? And I attribute that to the matriarchs of our culture, who have all, like, I don't know if there's a class they take. I don't know what it is, but they've been able to infuse the food in such a way that it may not always be a lot, but it's always going to satisfy in a way that nothing else can. And I know at this point, I haven't been fortunate enough to, you know, I'm still trying to get ready to find a place that I can have some Ghanaian food, Nigerian food. We have a Zimbabwean restaurant here that I love. But I want to be able to expand my palate. So every time that you mention something new, I've been writing it down on my little list here, and I'll do a little research and figure out what it is that I need to be eating.
Yeah. You know what's amazing? When I came here and I had a hush puppy,
Yes.
that was amazing because I was even shocked to find out that the rest of Africa ate similar balls of, hush puppy kind of vibes. I was shocked, and I think that was the one thing that really put a smile on my face. And it really made me happy because I was able to it brought me back home. We eat hush puppies on a daily basis. So when I found out that there was a place I could get hush puppies like right now, I would just grab them on a daily basis too, because it's something that I'm used to eating, even though I found out that here, the reason why people were eating hush puppies, or why hush puppies were made and why they got their name, was to keep the dogs quiet.
Yep.
It intrigued me that we didn't have that same reason, but it's still a food that you guys eat, and you make sure that it's there. It's still there, like you said, given kind of scraps to make a meal, and it came out just perfect. I'm happy at the way we were able to revive ourselves and kind of do the most with what we had.
Absolutely. And I think this is only the beginning, right? So now we've been blessed with wonderful technology and networking platforms with racist algorithms, but networking platforms nonetheless. And we are able to kind of bridge a little bit. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this, because I know we've had some videos in kind about this on TikTok. This concept of diaspora wars, like you alluded to it before, of people within our diaspora with, I guess, different definitions of who they are compared to the collective, and who allow this imposition from kind of archaic white thought or whatever to create division amongst all of our people. I wonder from you, what has been your experience in trying to dismantle that? And do you feel like this is something that now with these new systems we'd be better positioned to do? Or are you still, I get kind of disheartened because I get on TikTok and I feel like that's young people. And I would hope that young people are trying to connect more, but I see the diaspora wars that come up every 2 weeks or so, and I'm not really sure like what's going on. And I keep trying to tell people there's a white man laughing at you right now. So I'm wondering, what is your experience with dismantling it? And do you think that there's any hope of us like actually being able to fix this all together?
So, what's funny was that a lot of people were like, like I've spoken to my partner and he says, African Americans who are a little older are really the ones who feel this kind of weird vibe towards Africans from the continent. But he changed his mind. It's funny, we spoke about this, but like he changed his mind just 2 days ago, because we spoke about back in the day in the United States, there was this love for Africa. I remember watching videos and seeing y'all wear, they were not dashikis, but they were African-like shirts and the hats, the way you guys used to kind of dance, you know what I mean? What was that guy's name? He was famous. Was it Africa Bambaataa? Was that his name?
Oh yeah. I thought you thought that's like back in the day. That's my generation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he might not have a good reputation now, but we knew about him, and that's a South African word, Bambaataa, so we were like, what? Is one of us out there? I remember African Americans listening to Lady Smith of Black Mambazo, and I was like, I don't know if it was the older generation, because from what I saw, there was a big African influence in the United States. It was here, it was present, and I feel like the dashiki brought it back after it had been lost a little, you know, and is kind of reconnecting people with that that Africanness. But when it comes to also in Africa, in where I'm from in South Africa, we have never felt this way. So when I saw some South Africans come out and say things like that really are derogatory towards African Americans, I didn't understand why they said that, because we've never had the perspective of African Americans being, you know, I'm not even sure what the main thing is, you know, they would say confrontational or gangster-like, multiple babies. Where I'm from, people have multiple babies, you know. I feel like it's still that systematic thing that happened within us too in South Africa, that we are not able to see it the way other people would see it. You know, the whole gangsterism, kind of in what you guys would call the hoods and we would call the townships. It's present. It exists in South Africa. So we were not able to look at it and say, oh, that's how they are. No, we would be speaking about ourselves too, because we're exactly the same, you know. So I didn't understand why they felt like that. I felt like it was when they came here that they realized, or they were treated like I said. I had a situation where someone attacked me, and as soon as I spoke, they gave me some kind of respect. So it's either I chose to embrace that respect and say, you know, well, obviously I'm not the same, or I choose that at the end of the day, I am Black and these are my people. I was not with an African American that day, but I was angry for an African American because I don't deserve to go through this because I'm Black, and then you trying to switch it up just because I sound different is more disrespectful towards me than you think it is, you know. So I feel like that was the problem, because a lot of them who say this have left the country. Some of them live in Australia. I've gone back and forth with an Australian South African who has come out and said very mean things. And I realize it's when they leave South Africa that they're treated differently in other countries because of the way that we speak in South Africa too, where, you know, we're taught English from, it's our first language. And so it's easy for us to go anywhere in the world and kind of feel superior, you know. The world looks at people who speak English perfectly like, oh, you must be from, you know, you're part of the British or whatever it is. And so I think that mentality gets to them. And that's why I say they're in the sunken place. I also just made a video saying I am done bringing people out of the sunken place, because sometimes when you're too deep, you cannot come out. We have them in South Africa. We call them amper bosses, you know, you were almost a boss. You know, but because the white man would not actually put you on his level, you were just a little bit below, you know. And unfortunately, those are the same people that I believe, like, for instance, the situation with, we didn't even get to the Moors, but this is what I think about when I think of how they really came into Africa to take people. If you are told that if you can get me these people, you know, you will be safe. These were the people they were using. The white man needs his Black people, you know what I mean? And these are the people that they use, the ones in the sunken place, the ones who are not able to tell that I'm only respected because I actually succumb to the nonsense, you know? And even those people who ended up picking up, hey, we're going to go there. There's these people over here that we can grab. There's these people over here that we can grab. They also ended up getting taken. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, whether you're in the sunken place or not, you are still Black, and they still see it. So regardless of how you feel and that little respect that you got, when it's time for them to switch, they know that you're not one of them, you know? And that's how I believe happened in Africa. That's why I don't understand when they say, you know, when people get so angry but how could you guys have sold us? You cannot put us all into that one box. There were specific people who were in the sunken place, like Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was quick to get rid of the black slaves who wanted to rat them out, who made sure that they did not end up where they needed to end up. At the end of the day, we have these people, and the worst enemy to the black person is the black person in the sunken place. Then it is the white person, is any other race. It's the person who looks exactly like you, who is willing to sell you out. That's the biggest enemy. And I feel like, that's why I kind of try and teach people also the root of the problem of how African Americans ended up in the Americas, or how the Africans in the diaspora, because there's Jamaicans, there's Haitians, how they ended up here. The root is that the Moors were in Europe. They were ruling Europe for more than 700 years before they were in battle, for that long too. The Arabs and the Catholics had to come together and fight a common enemy. They were not a team. The Catholics and the Arabs were never a team. But to fight the common enemy, which was the black man, the Moors at the time, they needed to come together to do that. Right after they actually won the battle against the Moors, that's when the Pope legalized slavery. At that moment, when they won. The Moors were then promised heaven and earth. But this heaven and earth didn't really resonate with them. They didn't really understand that these people were going to come and take their people, and bring them over. But if they were, we're also out here, maybe it's a way to develop things, because we came here, the Moors thought about it as we came to Europe, we made it better. We brought fresh water, we brought lights, we brought certain things. So maybe they want to bring our people. It was hard for them to really see that it would have been a situation where they sold their people out. And they didn't do most of the work too. They found other people who were in Africa, who were the people that we would call the ones who were easily fooled, who then did the job for them. You know what I mean? But the main question is, how did the white man get there? And they would have never gotten there had it not been for the Moors. They would have never gotten there. There was just they knew nothing. They didn't even know how to bathe themselves. They didn't know about how to, create light. They didn't know where to get fresh water, that you must eat 3 times a day, that you must dress a certain way for winter and dress a certain way for summer. They didn't know these things. So how did they find Africa? Had it not been for the Moors, there's no other way. And that's the root of the problem, was that they had these ill intentions way before any African sold you off to the European themselves. They had they knew what they were going to do, and this is how they did it. And that's the main issue, was how they found it. And it doesn't mean that we must also put it on the Moors. They lost battle. They had run Europe for 700. I mean, if you think about 700 years, that is a long time. It's a very long time. We can at least, give them a round of applause for giving us that history as Black people, that's what they did, So when the white people eventually figured out how to get to Africa, because they also didn't know Columbus thought he arrived in India when he arrived in the Americas, and even that too, there's another reason why I feel not every African American is from the transatlantic slave trade. I actually believe that, because there's some research that I've read where there is documents that show that Native Americans told Columbus that there was brown-skinned people here before you arrived, who actually told him this. So brown-skinned people speaking about Black people, and so I do have that perception that there was definitely Black people everywhere, because of the great human migration, where we all left Africa and we spread across, which is how we get to the fact that the map is actually upside down. The map we've been reading is not the same as we would think. Everything is actually, we're below. South Africa is all the way up there, And the way people went, it was easier for people to have gone south than it was for them to go north, because north there was only, South Africa up there, and then I believe on the other side, the Americas. It's all going south. It's all going south. And these three spots, Australia, Africa, and South America, are actually bigger than all the underneath, take me saying the underneath, than Europe, Asia, North America. They're all bigger. And so we were all at the top, and we all the human migration made us all split. And that's why you will find each and every one of us in Asia, in North America, in South America, in Europe. The white man being a European is a phenomenon of only 10,000 years ago. Before that, a European person was dark skinned. It would be great for people to have a link to Cheddar Man. He was the last standing, dark skinned European. It wasn't a white man. That's a new phenomenon, which is why a lot of people will then run to the Caucasus Mountains. But from the research I've been doing, even the people from the Caucasus Mountains had brown skin. So everything is, I'm still on a road of kind of trying to figure things out as to where did this race come from, but it's going to take a while, because things are just kind of unfolding. To find out that Europe is actually a place where Black people lived and were from, even Arabs, the new Arabs, the light-skinned ones, are a new people. There's something called Black Arabia, the African origin of Islam. How people back in the day look like who were Arab. That's why when people say, but why do we call Africa Al-Kaibulan, but it's an Arabic name? Because Arabic is spoken by almost 130 million people in Africa, so it's bound that we would be named by a language that is spoken so vastly in Africa. And because it means three things: the Garden of Eden, the mother of mankind, and the last one, the land of the blacks. You know what I mean? So that's where we get it from. We just needed a name, and our name was Al-Kaibulan, and it is perfectly fine for us to have an Arabic name, because Arabic is spoken in other African countries, because Arabic began in Africa. People need to just find out about Black Arabia, where we really become this light-skinned thing, people getting lighter and lighter, and end up becoming white with soft hairs. It's brand new. It's not an old thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for the history. I was actually going to ask that you beat me to it and answer the question. Thank you very much. Well, time, like we told you, time flies when we have these discussions. Already an hour, 13 minutes. So we're winding down here. Any more questions? Comments?
Yeah,
if you haven't done so.
I have a comment. It'll be quick though.
Okay.
So I just wanted to thank Daniela for coming out, making time for us today. And as always, we want to give an opportunity for people to be able to reach out with any like social media contacts or whatnot. Everybody knows Daniela already, but in case you don't know Daniela, what is the best way for people to reach you?
So I have Instagram, and my name is Koetz_Mami. That's KOETZ_MAMI. And I'm also on Facebook. Facebook's I share personal perceptions on Facebook, so I could be very different to what you see on TikTok and Instagram, but it's interesting too. So kind of get a widespread perception. And my name is Daniela Nkanyezi Koetz. That's DANIELA. And then my second name is Nkanyezi, NKANYEZI. And my last name is KOETZ. Koetz. So Daniela Nkanyezi Kuts on Facebook. I am also on YouTube. I don't really have a big situation going on there. I'm working on it, but I am Indigo Kuts also on YouTube as I am on TikTok. Indigo_Kuts. I have a backup on on TikTok too, for situations, and it's called Skeem SKEEM_Sam SAM. Oh, sorry, Saga. Sorry, SAKA_Kuts. Skeem Saga Kuts. That is the Kuts' squad. That's what it means. So yeah.
Absolutely. So as we always do every week, let me just put out this disclaimer. This is the opportunity for you guys to reach out professionally to Daniela. And I'm emphasizing professionally because she's already told you she is not available. She is taken. Please do not feel like you want to be Klay Thompson or Steph Curry and start shooting shots from half court trying to get in the inbox. This is not what this is for. Okay. I hate we have to give that disclaimer, but it's always important to do because everybody listening ain't always on the same accord that we are. So
appreciate it.
Definitely reach out if you have any questions, or just follow her, please, and get some of the good information that she's spreading around. Hopefully we won't have a lot of people who are gonna decide to continue keeping a zip code in the sunken place, but we want people to come out, because the whole point is for us to bridge the gap between the diaspora, bring Black people together on an international basis, and hopefully we got big plans. We need councils, we need budgets, we need all kinds of stuff. So the quicker we get past this artificial division that was created and imposed upon us, the quicker we can get to the real business at hand moving forward.
Yep,
that's right.
It starts with us.
Yeah, so like she told you, so that's Instagram at Kuts_Mami, and then her Facebook is okay, I'm gonna try.
It just says NK.
NK.Kuts.
Yeah.
NK.Kuts. Okay. And then she's also on YouTube, and what was the last one? Was it something else?
TikTok.
TikTok, of course. TikTok is she's a TikTok sensation, and I hope they lift. I heard you're restricted on TikTok. I hope there's been the restriction.
Yeah,
I'm
banned
lifted
right now. I'm banned today. Yeah, there was just a few things that I posted yesterday about South Africa that were apparently illegal activities. So yeah, I'm banned until tomorrow. I go through this almost every second day. I'm banned. I don't even know how I haven't lost my account. But yeah, I'm trading carefully. I'm trying to be strategic with my videos now. But it's difficult to learn because you never really know until that account is banned. So as long as I get out there that people need to start taking that initiative to kind of teach themselves about who they are, I just want to see more African Americans claiming their African side without shame, without validation, whether it be a DNA test, whether it be another African, whether it be I don't want to disrespect. No, it's about time you take back what's yours, what was stripped from you. We got ours. We know what it is. You guys just need to reclaim that and do it with every inch of your body. No one's gonna tell you cannot. As long as I get that message out.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us. If you haven't done so already, if you haven't liked us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Pan Africana presents Afriscope on Instagram. We are at the Pan Africana Show. On Facebook, we also Pan Africa presents Afriscope. Like us, subscribe, share this content. You can go back and watch this video on YouTube. It will be up with the great Daniela Kuts. And have a good weekend, everybody. And then you can also get this on Spreadshirt. Get a school tees on Spreadshirt. we have a special offer for. So if you want one of these, you can. You can also join us as a guest. All right. So have a good weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Cheers.